All right, everybody. Here's our HMH lesson for today. We are going to be talking about elements of informational text. This is what we have been talking about. Elements means pieces of. So different kinds of pieces in stories that are informational. That means they give you information. The beginning part is the introduction. It tells you what the main idea is. The body gives details or steps, and then the conclusion retells the main idea and wraps it up with a good ending. All right, so why do we use informational text? We use informational text to describe something, to tell things in time or step order, or to compare and contrast two things. So here they're comparing the dog to the cat. Or to show problems and solutions. So the problem here is the bike has a flat tire. The solution is to pump it. All right, so we are mainly reviewing elements of informational text. Opening up our HMH, it says, read. Which sentences help you understand how being curious can lead to making discoveries? So what does it mean to be curious? Who can raise their hand and tell me, what does it mean to be curious? Jacob, see? What does it mean? What does it mean when I say, are you curious? What is that? Leah? Okay. Like wanting to know something. Very good. Curiosity is wanting to know something. So this is where we're supposed to be. All right. So it says we have a little boy looking at the snail. Okay. Our world is full of things that make us wonder and feel curious. What do you think you will read about in Are You Curious? What do you think is going to be in the story Are You Curious? Who can raise their hand and tell me? Leah? Okay, good. So, Are You Curious might be about things we are interested in. Why do you think it's about things we are interested in? What is the title of the story? Are You Curious? And we said that curious meant what? To be interested or find out things about something. Very good. Okay, so let's see. We read to make inferences about people who we are curious about. So we're going to make inferences while reading. So let's see. Go ahead and follow along with me in your books. Where on the page it says being curious. I'm going to play the audio. Follow along.
Are you curious? Read. Which words help you understand what curious means? Underline them. Being curious means wondering about things. It means being excited to explore. When we are curious, we ask questions. We might ask questions about how something works or why things happen. We can observe things we are curious about. This helps us find answers. Those answers can surprise us. They might even make us more curious. Close reading tip. Mark important ideas with...
All right. So we can observe things that we are curious about. What does it mean to observe something? Observe means like to watch something closely. So if we watch something closely that we're curious about, we are actually learning more about it. Okay, so how do people find answers when they are curious? How do we find answers? Let's say we are curious about if a cat falls, what happens? Let's say that that's what we're curious about. What are we going to do to find out the answer? Dominique, what would you do if you wanted to know what happened to a cat that falls? Destin, what would you do? You would catch a cat, but you want to see what happens if they fall on the ground, right? So what would you do, Tut? Why would you help the cat? You're trying to find out what happens to the cat when they fall. You don't want to interfere with the cat. You don't want to mess with the cat. You just want to sit back and what? Watch. You want to watch. Very good. You want to watch it closely and see what happens when the cat falls, right? You're curious about that. What's something somebody else might be curious about? Is anybody in here curious about anything in the world? Is there anything in the world you're curious about? Let's see. Jasmine, what are you curious about? Pull your mask down a little bit. I can't hear a single thing. Anything? You're not curious about anything? Okay. All right. Bernaya, what are you curious about? Okay, are superheroes real? Are unicorns and butterfly rainbows real? Oh, okay. Is that real or is it not real? Very good. Bernaya, what would you do to find out that answer? Good. You would research. You would read, right? You would maybe search the internet. Maybe you would go to the library and pick up some books.
Or maybe you could go hiking and look.
Very good. Maybe you should go hiking and see if there really are unicorns in that habitat, right? Very good. Awesome job. So how do people find answers when they are curious? They research. They read. What else do? They watch. Leah? They listen. Jacob? They explore.
They track.
Very good. Tut. I can't hear a single thing. What? Destin? They what? Okay, that's okay, good. They put a tracker in them. That's more of like they research or listen. Okay, very good. That's awesome. Very good. Those are really good ways that people find answers to things they're curious about. Let's keep going. It says, read sentences to help you understand. Oh, we already written. No, we didn't. Yeah, go to the next page, guys. Which sentences help you understand how being curious can lead to making discoveries? Let's underline them as we read. Oh, look at this. What is this a picture of?
A birdie.
It's not a birdie. It's an owl. Oh, man, that owl is like, woo, woo. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and read.
Read. Which sentences help you understand how being curious can lead to making discoveries? Underline them. Curiosity leads to learning and new exciting discoveries. Long ago, people asked, why can birds fly? They watched birds in the sky. They discovered that a bird's wing shape was one reason why it could fly. Eventually, what people had learned about a bird's wings was used to build the airplane. We know a lot about the world around us because people were curious. And there are always more questions we can ask. Never be afraid to say, I don't know. That will help your curiosity grow.
Very good. What do you wonder about? Okay, so we can only learn what we don't know, right? So what do you wonder about? Does anybody wonder? Bernaya said she's curious or she wonders about the butterflies and the unicorns if they're real. Yep. Anybody else curious about anything?
Oh, and unicorn.
Tut. Okay, are rainbow horses real? How about this? Anybody want to get off the track with the rainbows and the unicorns? Is anybody else curious about anything on this earth? My goodness, what something is made of, how something is made, where it goes when we're done with it, anything. Come on, anything. Jacob H. You're curious about what? I'm sorry, take your mask off and talk. I can't hear you. Very good. He's curious if steel is breakable. That's a good one. Dominic, what are you curious about? Good. How big is this school? Maybe in square feet, right? How big? When we measure the school, how big is it? That's a good one. Jacob C. How tall the Statue of Liberty is. That's a good one. Bernaya?
I'm curious about how devices and candy are made.
Good. About how candy is made.
And devices.
And devices. Okay, we're going to do one more. Leia. How boards are made. Okay, very good. All right, what can you infer from the text about people who are curious? What can we infer? What can we infer about the story? The people who are curious are what, Brenaya? So the question was, what can you infer from the story about people who are curious? So they mentioned about people that were curious about how birds fly. They were watching the bird closely and how the wings are, right, of the bird. And then they created what? What did they create after learning how a bird flies? What did they make? Do we have to reread it again? Maybe we have to go back and reread it. Let's reread it since nobody knows. All right. Curiosity leads to learning and new exciting discoveries. Long ago, people asked, why can birds fly? They watched birds in the sky. They discovered that a bird's wings shape was one reason why it could fly. Eventually, what people had learned about a bird's wings was used to build the airplane. We know a lot about the world around us because people who were curious. And there are always more questions we can ask. Never be afraid to say, I don't know. This will help your curiosity grow. We can only learn what we don't know. What do you wonder about? Okay, so what did they build after watching the bird and how the bird flies? What did they learn? How to build a what?
Plane.
Good, how to build an airplane. People that were curious watched how birds fly and they got ideas from the birds and they created or made an airplane after that. Very good. So people who are curious, what about people who are curious? What can we say about them? Are people who, okay, they're not experts. We're all curious about things, but they're people who what? They ask what? Good. People who are curious are people who ask a lot of questions. Do I have to write that down? Yes. My onliners. Miss Yusuf, do I have to write this down? Yes. In your reading notebook, you're going to write this down. What am I writing, Miss Yusuf? You're writing at the top, you're going to write, are you curious? And then you're going to write, check my understanding. And then you're going to write this answer. What is the answer? People who are curious are people who ask a lot of questions. If you want to do it on the HMH website, you can, and you don't have to write it down. But if you're not doing it on the HMH website, it needs to be written down in your reading notebook, okay? So people who are curious are people who ask a lot of questions. Come get a piece of paper until you can get one. Right here, people who are curious are people who ask a lot of questions. They want to learn new things and make new discoveries, right? They want to learn new things and make discoveries. Spelled that wrong. Nope, not right now. Sorry, you're going to have to get another one. So people who are curious are people who ask a lot of questions. They want to learn new things and make discoveries. All right. So the next question is, what makes you a curious person? Use details from the text in your answer to try to include the words wonder, discover, and curious. So the question is, what makes you a curious person? So you're always going to write that with writing it in a complete sentence. So I want you now to write on your paper. I want you to write about it. Where is that? It's right here. Write about it. So on your paper, write about it, underline it, and then on the next line underneath it, you are going to write what makes you a curious person. So you're going to say, everyone's is going to start this way. I am a curious person because, and then you're going to finish that off, okay? All right, so you can either, again, onliners, you can do this on HMH website, or you can do it on a piece of paper. Not a piece of paper. Do it in your reading notebook. Take a picture and turn it into me where on here on Google Classroom, or you can just do it on the HMH website, whatever you want. Okay? All right, have fun learning, and I will see you later.